For half a century, a shadow of terror stretched across the European continent. From the vast, untamed steppes, a relentless force emerged, striking fear into the hearts of kings and commoners alike. These were the Magyars, nomadic warriors whose very name became synonymous with destruction. Their raids were swift, devastating, and seemingly unstoppable. They swept across lands with terrifying speed, plundering settlements, burning churches, and leaving only desolation in their wake. Europe, fragmented and vulnerable, seemed powerless against their relentless onslaught. For 50 long years, the continent endured widespread plundering and unimaginable terror. No kingdom was safe, no border secure. The Magyars were a scourge, a force of nature that threatened to unravel the very fabric of nascent European civilization. Then, in August of 955, a single decisive confrontation changed everything. On the plains of Lechfeld, near the city of Augsburg, two worlds collided in a battle that would echo through history. It was a pivotal turning point, a moment of truth for a continent on the brink. The Battle of Lechfeld did more than merely stem the tide of Magyar incursions. It laid the foundational stones for what would become the Holy Roman Empire, forever altering the political and cultural landscape of Europe. This was the day Otto, king of the East Franks, stood against the storm and saved a continent. The Magyars were masters of their craft, formidable raiders honed by generations on the steppes. Their tactics were brutal and effective, relying on lightning-fast horse archery, feigned retreats, and overwhelming numbers. They struck without warning, vanished without a trace, and left only ruin behind. Their destructive impact was so profound that they were widely perceived as God's scourge, a divine punishment visited upon a sinful world. Their very presence instilled a primal fear, a sense of impending doom that paralyzed resistance. They were an existential threat to the emerging order of medieval Europe. Amidst this chaos, Otto ascended to the throne of the East Frankish kingdom. His ambition was grand, to unite the fractured duchies under a single powerful crown. But his reign was far from peaceful, plagued by constant internal conflicts and treacherous rebellions. Dukes and counts, ever eager for greater autonomy, frequently challenged his authority. Betrayals were common, alliances fragile. Otto found himself constantly battling for control, his focus often diverted from external threats by the turmoil within his own realm. The Magyars, ever opportunistic, exploited these deep internal divisions. They watched Europe's struggles with keen eyes, intensifying their raids whenever Otto's attention was consumed by domestic strife. Their incursions became more frequent, more audacious, pushing the kingdom to its breaking point. Otto understood that his kingdom, and indeed all of Europe, could not long endure this dual assault. He knew that a decisive stand was inevitable, a moment when the fate of the continent would hang in the balance. That moment arrived in the summer of 955. The year 955 brought the gravest threat yet. A massive Magyar force estimated at 8,000 warriors poured into Bavaria. Their objective was clear, their intent terrifying: to seize the prosperous city of Augsburg, a vital strategic and economic hub. Augsburg quickly came under siege, its walls becoming the last bastion against the encroaching terror. The city became the focal point of the impending clash, a symbol of European defiance against the relentless Magyar tide. Its fall would open the heart of the continent to further devastation. Within Augsburg's beleaguered walls, Bishop Ulrich rallied the city's defenders. A man of God and a formidable leader, he inspired his people to resist with unwavering courage. His defiance bought precious time, a desperate gamble for survival against overwhelming odds. News of Augsburg's plight reached Otto, who immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. This was not merely another raid. This was a full-scale invasion, a direct challenge to his authority and the very existence of his kingdom. He knew he had to act decisively. Otto swiftly rallied a diverse coalition of forces, drawing strength from across his realm. His army comprised Saxons, his loyal core, alongside Swabians, Bavarians, and Franconians. Each contingent brought its own strengths, its own traditions of warfare. This coalition, however, was bound more by necessity than by deep-seated loyalty. Old rivalries simmered beneath the surface, and the unity was fragile. Yet, the existential threat of the Magyars forged a temporary, uneasy alliance. Among those who answered Otto's call was Conrad the Red, Duke of Lorraine. He was Otto's son-in-law, but also a former rebel who had recently betrayed the king. Now he sought redemption, a chance to prove his loyalty and reclaim his honor in the crucible of battle. As Otto marched his army towards Augsburg, the tension was palpable. The fate of Europe rested on the shoulders of this disparate force, united only by the desperate need to confront an enemy that had terrorized them for generations. The stage was set for a confrontation that would define an era. As Otto's army approached Augsburg, they prepared to cross the Lech River. It was a moment of vulnerability, a critical maneuver that the Magyars had anticipated. Suddenly, without warning, the nomadic warriors launched a devastating ambush on the rear of Otto's column. Chaos erupted within the ranks. The surprise attack, a classic Magyar tactic, threatened to unravel the entire formation before the main battle even began. Panic spread as the rear guard found itself overwhelmed by a torrent of arrows and charging horsemen. It was in this desperate moment that Conrad the Red seized his chance for redemption. He led a furious countercharge, throwing himself and his loyal knights into the thick of the fighting. His courage stemmed the tide, preventing a complete rout of the rear. Conrad's heroic actions saved Otto's army from disaster, but it came at a terrible cost. In the maelstrom of the fighting, a Magyar arrow found its mark, striking him down. He died a hero, his life sacrificed to secure the army's rear and ensure their survival. With the immediate threat to his rear secured, Otto wasted no time. He launched a decisive offensive, turning his disciplined heavy cavalry towards the main Magyar force. The moment of truth had arrived, and Otto was ready to meet it head-on. He raised the Holy Lance, a sacred relic believed to guarantee victory, symbolizing divine protection and inspiring his troops. With this powerful emblem held high, he personally led his knights into the heart of the Magyar lines, a king fighting alongside his men. The battle that ensued was a brutal, grinding melee. Otto's superior armor, disciplined formations, and heavy cavalry proved devastating against the lighter-armed Magyar horsemen. The clash of steel, the thunder of hooves, and the cries of battle filled the air. As the main engagement raged, Bishop Ulrich launched a surprise attack from within besieged Augsburg. His sortie, a desperate gamble, further disrupted and broke the Magyar ranks. Caught between Otto's hammer and Ulrich's anvil, the Magyars began to falter. The tide of battle turned decisively. The nomadic warriors, accustomed to swift raids and easy victories, found themselves facing an unyielding, disciplined foe. Their formations shattered, their morale broken. The Magyars began to flee, their terror now turned upon themselves. As the Magyars broke and fled, a violent summer storm erupted, as if the heavens themselves had joined the fray. Torrential rains lashed down, turning the plains of Lechfeld into a treacherous quagmire. The storm transformed the Magyar retreat into an unimaginable massacre. The fleeing warriors, weighed down by their armor and caught in the rising floodwaters, became trapped. Many drowned in the swollen rivers and muddy fields. their escape routes cut off. Others were relentlessly pursued and slaughtered by Otto's victorious forces. Captured Magyar chieftains, the architects of decades of terror, were swiftly executed. Their deaths sent an unmistakable message. The era of Magyar dominance and unchecked raiding in Western Europe was definitively over. The scourge had been vanquished. The Battle of Lechfeld marked the definitive end of the Magyar threat to Western Europe. Their power was broken, their spirit crushed. Never again would they launch such devastating incursions into the heart of the continent. In the aftermath, the Magyars eventually settled in the Carpathian Basin, abandoning their nomadic ways. They converted to Christianity, embraced a new identity, and established the Kingdom of Hungary, becoming a vital part of the European tapestry. Otto, hailed as the savior of Europe, returned a triumphant hero. His victory at Lechfeld solidified his authority and prestige across the continent. He had not only defended his kingdom, but had secured the future of an entire civilization. 10 years later, in 962, Otto was crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope in Rome. This momentous event, directly enabled by his decisive victory at Lechfeld, established a new imperial order that would shape European politics for centuries. The battle's legacy profoundly shaped Europe's political and religious landscape. It ushered in an era of relative stability, allowing for the growth of kingdoms and the flourishing of culture. Lechfeld was more than a battle. It was the dawn of a new age for Europe.